Record.
Okay, we're now recording, and so everyone that typed in that they need credit, you're going to have to do that one more time since there was no record of it before we hit record.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, well, yeah, so because this is CE class, yeah, go ahead and do that again. Sorry, guys. You're getting some practice.
Right, and then one more housekeeping thing, Will. Hit the participants button, find your name. If you haven't put your full name, hover over your name and go to where it says more on the drop-down and rename yourself so that we have your full name, because sometimes it's just initials and that doesn't work. So make sure your full name's in there and then keep your camera on.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Looks like we have 65. Okay, welcome everybody. So today's class is one I'm very passionate about. This is the law and the buyer presentation. So because this is an elective CE, we've got a little bit more flexibility to talk about the practical nature of working with buyers. I've asked Kevin Larson and Craig Lelis to kind of join me in some of the legal discussions today. Please use chat if you have any questions about what comes up today. I'm kind of hoping to get us all critically thinking about a few points. And in other words, to do that, I'm probably going to pose some things that we might be divided on. So we might have difference of opinion. So I'll encourage you to get involved in the discussion and to use the chat and let me know how you view some of these issues today. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover I think some of the gems here are the buyer consultation meeting. If you've been in coaching with me before, I believe that most of the problems we have with our buyer clients could have been avoided if we had a formal buyer consultation meeting. So we'll talk about that and what should go in that, how we should do that presentation. Of course, today in the world of Zoom, I hope to show you what I would do. I've got a couple items down in my doc there that I'll show you what I would do when working with the buyer. I want to address some of the core fundamental things that buyers want out of all of us. What are they? What problems they need solved, and how can we take a leadership role in doing that? We're going to talk about, of course, the buyer-broker agreement and why in the world would a buyer want to sign that. I did hear an agent. It's been a couple of weeks, I guess. Time flies when you're having fun. But they said, I don't believe in having buyers sign a buyer-broker agreement. I would never hold hostage a person. That is clearly an agent who doesn't understand the benefit the buyer has from entering a buyer agreement with an agent. So we'll talk about that too. The buyer due diligence checklist, very important. Cover our Fannie form and inform and educate a buyer. So we'll talk about that too. And then I'm going to pose the question on the timing of agency. So I want to give you a case that we had at the Code of Ethics. We had an agent who was brought before the board, fortunately not the state. So, and just to separate those out, guys, we have laws and rules that are state governed, where an investigator would get involved, and then we have the board, which would exercise their rights as realtor association guidelines against a member. Or we have the MLS on top of that too. So in this case, it's a code of ethics violation, and it's one I think we could easily slip into. I might even throw in something that we don't really know a whole lot about to see if we might trip up. Might talk about a greenbelt tax and see how an agent might handle some of that. So that's the class. What do you think? Woohoo! Okay. I'm telling you, tough crowd. It's like crickets. It's so funny, and then nothing. Okay. Well, I guarantee you I'm going to have fun doing this. I know that's going to happen. All right. I hope you'll join me. So let's start off. I sent you some materials. I think it's best if you print them off and make notes. I mean, we're going to be kind of flying through this. I hope to give you the gems that we could really need and use in your career. And then, it'll be on to the next subject next week. So I'm going to show my screen again, and let's go through some of that. Let's see, share screen. Okay, so this is what I emailed to everybody. Thank you so much to Amy Hobbs and Cheryl Bosch for helping create all these amazing training materials. But let's start off. I wanted to begin kind of here talking about these blanks and get a running start at some things. Maybe before I do that, let's not forget that we are in a battle of presentation of value. So if you live in the Wasatch Front, you've already seen the billboards that say a friend wouldn't let a friend, you know, not use a certain company, or, you know, use me as a buyer and you'll get $5,000, use your friend and you'll get a gift basket. Okay. That's what is peppering the public. That message is what they're trying to make sense of. So this is not a small thing to win the battle of value in the eyes of a buyer, okay? So I'm taking kind of a running start at some things here. I know we would all like to be listing agents, but when the tables turn in markets, it's great to have buyers. We've got some blanks here. Let me see what you would think. Go ahead and use your chat on what you think the blanks would be. So like with all clients, we must learn to provide real blank and solve blank and make the blank less risky as possible. So light up the chat, see what you think the first blank is. Thanks for participating. This helps us know that if you're not on video, that you're involved in the class. So we can come back and look at these notes, guys. So it's really helpful. Okay, so the first one is real value. I think that a lot of you are on the right path. So if you have this printed out or you're making notes, let's put real value and then solve what? Yeah, problems. Very good. And then make the process, I like that, or the transaction less risky. Either one of those is correct. So if we, it does kind of beg the question that if we don't know what the problems are, it's hard to solve them. So remember from our communications class, when we talk about presentation skills, that we ask really good questions of buyers, right? Okay, let's talk about opportunities and challenges. This is going to bring to light some of the things that I think we love about working with buyers and the things that we don't like. Kevin Larson and Craig, feel free to weigh in here. I'd like to have more of a discussion. And if anybody has a thought, raise your hand and Joe can unmute you. In the left corner, you kind of see what I would view as opportunities. I think it's very rewarding to find someone the right house. Would you guys agree that that's like top of the reasons why we love real estate? If you've ever helped a family, find the right home, and they celebrate that moment at closing and moving in, it's awesome. It's one of the best paydays.
Buyers can refer you to other clients, sometimes more readily than sellers who are leaving the state or going elsewhere. So a lot of times, you think, well, I'd prefer to be a listing agent, but buyers are the quickest way to a paycheck for someone who knows how to work them effectively.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. I listed that out here because Kevin's a smart guy. See, they refer business. I think it's a great way to build our past clients. Buyers often shop online. Why would I have that over here in the opportunities? Why would I have that kind of on the positive side of the ledger that they shop online? Light up the chat, you guys, if you don't mind. It's the only way we get interaction with these large groups. So just give me some quick answers. Why do we like the fact that they shop online?
That's where you are.
Yeah. Saves a lot of legwork. Right, Don, thank you. Already interested, kind of know what they want. Yeah, they're a lot more prepared. Yeah, they're more educated. Thanks, Brianna. Yeah, Diane, it's education. I think if they spend time online and you know, remember what Jamie and Di have been reporting about our online stats? I mean, they're way up. You know, everybody's online shopping. Tammy and I are. We're looking for a property down in the south part of the state. My wife is from Arizona, so she blames me for pulling her away from the palm trees and the swimming pool. So I finally thought I would put an end to that, and we would just buy something down south with a pool. So we're online all the time looking, just like our buyers are. How about the way this is phrased right here? Agent's fee is most often paid by seller. We better be very careful about how we phrase that and how we teach that. And a lot of times, guys, we're our own worst enemy. Let me just show you something else in the handout. So I'm going to jump forward. Anybody remember me trying to teach this concept right here? Stop telling buyers you're free. Nod, yes? No? Okay, well, there's a couple of things that I would wish if I had a magic wand, and this would be one of them, is that we would stop telling buyers we're free. It devalues us. So we got to be very, very careful about how we communicate commission. So let me come back up here. Let's get the rest of these blanks filled out. You can see find the right home, buyers a quick transaction, which Kev brought up. What about challenges? Are buyers challenging?
They are for an unskilled agent. There's a saying that buyers are liars, but it's really buyers are only liars if the agent doesn't ask the right questions.
Right. Very good. I know we've all heard that buyers are liars. I wish we could delete that from our, like our history.
The agent had asked a question, then the buyer would be able to give the right answer. And it's a skilled agent that can actually help funnel all the choices down to a specific property. And once they understand what that buyer's needs are, but agents don't listen well enough is what we should be saying, not buyers are liars.
Right. And I put on top here, Kev, can you see the handout on my screen?
Yeah, they change their minds all the time.
Yeah, and so that we often label them as not telling the truth, but as they go through the process of online shopping, and then they talk with you, and then they get more educated, and then they change their minds. They're just pivoting on what they now want after they've been more educated.
Yeah, common one is they go out and look at everything, and they don't care about floor plans. Then all of a sudden they realize that they don't want stairs. They would rather have a rambler.
Yeah.
But they change their mind and the agent doesn't listen. They keep showing them split levels with stairs. And all of a sudden the agent is not listening and they are closing with someone else because the agent wasn't paying attention when they pivoted.
Right. Yeah, I think I think that's a good point. So make some notes about that. Let me fly through some of this and get to some of the law and how it relates. We all know that buyers' offers don't always get accepted. We could write a number of offers. That can be frustrating. We can only handle a few buyers at a time. We know buyers are not always loyal. They will sometimes in the process before we have them buyer brokered, or even beyond. If you've been in this business long enough, you've had a buyer broker client write an offer with another agent. So it does happen, and it can be challenging. And of course, if we have low inventory, that can complicate things too on finding the right house. Yeah, Don, and they're not always realistic. They start off that kind of uneducated, so it's our job to set the right expectations. So this brings me to where the law and the process kind of intervene, working with buyers in the buyer consultation meeting. Here's the problem, okay? We're lead generating. We're lead converting. So once you get a call or someone raises their hand, an email, an inquiry, whatever that it is, you're then starting the lead conversion process. And what happens is we've learned, because it works, right? If we show them houses, we can get to know them and they want to go see houses. And please don't misread me. I don't think we should undo that process. The problem is it doesn't inject the buyer consultation meeting into the process. That's the problem. So what I'm saying is you get a buyer call and then you ask questions, which is good. What are you looking for? And you say, I know a couple of properties. And the next thing you know, you're setting appointments and then you're meeting them there. And it's a great time to get to know them. All that's fantastic. If you continue that, what happens? They want to now write an offer, which is our hope. Okay, now we introduce the buyer broker agreement. And then they sign it, right? And then we write the offer. And there's a problem with that in many cases. So, because it's the timing of when agency is really being created. So let me ask you guys this. Go to your chat and let's see how well you can remember some law here. What do we call agency that is created by something that we do? Or that our actions create agency? What is it? Wow, Nancy, you are fast. Ron, right on it. Michael, good. Yeah, so we have implied agency. So is implied agency a legally binding method in the state of Utah? Yes or no? Hit the chat. Okay, so it isn't. So we can get in trouble here. Okay. Let's open this up. So, hey, Craig, I haven't heard you. Feel free to weigh in too, Craig. Is he unmuted, Joe?
He's trying to, Will. Yeah, we're having some issues with his audio, but I'm trying to force a little rebound for him here.
Okay, got it. If anybody wants to have some kind of,
Craig,
banter.
go ahead. I think we got you.
Craig?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yay, Craig! Woohoo! Okay, so hey, let's talk about this now. I didn't tee up. I didn't warn Craig or Kevin about what we were going to talk about today. But here's our case, talking about this timing of agency. Here you go. So listen carefully, you guys. Don't multitask right now. Okay. So here's the case. It's a code of ethics violation. The case is, and it's centered around an email that was sent from an agent who said, my buyer client would like to see the property located at, okay? In the email. It's new construction. And so the listing agent says, well, okay, here's a time to see it. The buyer, in their unloyal phase, calls the listing agent to see the property. Asks the listing agent says, your agent has already contacted me. So what do you think the problem is here? What are we running into? What's about to happen? Yeah, there's no signed agency agreement. Thanks for playing along, you guys. I do appreciate that. What do you think about the email? Yeah, thanks for the procuring cause. Don't let me forget that, Michael. I'm going to come back to that, Mike. I'll come back to that. What do you think about the email that the agent said, my buyer client? Now, what's the question here? Do we have a signed buyer broker agreement when the agent sent the email requesting the showing and said, my buyer client would like to see? Yep. So they weren't a client at all, right? So are you guys a little nervous about how you set appointments for potential buyers and how you're phrasing that? Should we be nervous? What do you think, Kev? Craig? What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. You shouldn't call them a client until they really are one. So you could say I have a buyer, but even that implies agency.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of feel like that's a common misstep amongst all of us?
Oh, yeah.
So, a buyer calls on your listing or whatever. It doesn't work for them. So they tell you what they want and they're looking for, and you call to make appointments. And maybe you do this 2 or 3 times. And in that process, you find yourself saying, my buyers, right? And sometimes we say, my buyer clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's a problem. Well, what was the what do you think the end result of this was, Kev?
A lot of confusion on the part, and probably 2 agents trying to represent the same buyer.
Yeah. So back to Michael's issue. That's why we're laughing, because these are not always easy. So the buyer goes around the agent and goes directly to the listing agent, and then we've got this issue of procuring cause that we would debate if we were to owe a commission. So it actually doesn't end up there. The agent did a very wise thing and said, we make no demands on the commission. They aren't my client. I was merely calling or emailing to set an appointment, which saved the agent from, I think, bigger violation, potentially. And then you've got, so the end result was just the misrepresentation that they were client when they were not, which was a code of ethics violation. I won't talk a lot about the procuring cause, but know this, that it's pretty complicated and it's not clear cut. Matter of fact, you guys can probably see in my office, I have the arbitration. Yeah. If we ended up in arbitration and we wanted to argue commission, these are the rules for that. So it's not always easy. But nevertheless, the agent was left with dealing with this misrepresentation that they had a client when they did not. Craig, Kevin, any other thoughts on that? I'll continue on unless you have something else to add there.
Are you going to go back to procuring cause later?
Not in this class. Let's do procuring cause later. It's
a hard thing to prove. And
it really is. Yeah.
And you really don't want to go to an arbitration, but I'll tell you, you'll have an advantage if you have a signed buyer broker agreement.
Yeah, that weighs heavily on the decision of the board that's hearing the procuring cause. Was there a buyer's agency? There's not a buyer's agency, you're dead in the water, really. You could prevail, but it's got to have a lot of evidence that you spent a lot of time with the buyer, that you did a lot of work on their behalf, that there was an implied agency, and it's a real uphill battle. That buyer's agency is key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for the comments to you guys. I appreciate that. Let me see. I don't want to, just skip over them.
Hey,
how about this?
Sometimes agents rely too much on the buyer's agency because, it's a two-way street. If you sign a buyer's agency, you're committing to work with that buyer, look out for their best interests, work hard to try to find the right property. If you have one signed and you just kind of abandon the buyer, it won't hold up at all in a procuring cause by the actions of the agent. You actually have to do something for it.
Yeah,
that's right. Abandonment is a big issue out there.
Particularly with the part-time agents who get one signed, but they're too busy working at McDonald's to go show clients, so they send them out to the properties on their own. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we laugh because we know it's happened and it's embarrassing for our whole industry. So there's our battlefront. We've got to be better at communicating our value proposition. Ideally, guys, you would have printed this off. If you have, can I give you a few notes to write down real quick? I know we're kind of all getting practiced on Zoom, discussions, but the taking of notes can be a really great way to retain something. So let me give you a couple of high points here. First of all, I would write over here to remember that never tell a buyer that you're free. Okay. Instead, we're going to explain how we're compensated and the way that works. And I love visuals for that, right? I like to point out BACs. I like to educate them on the process, on how that looks, maybe on a closing disclosure, if they're concerned about it. I like to talk about what our scope of duties are, and I'll go to the buyer broker agreement in a minute, but make that note here. When we're talking about this, so I think we've already talked a little bit about discovering questions, but on educate on the process, I think what I'd like to emphasize today is I'm asking you, what's the next step? How do you lead a buyer? Can you describe to them what's next? What should we do next? Now, that's a different answer for different buyers because they're at different phases. So it's not one answer, right? But to lead them through the process, which is exactly what you are, you're a leader, then we need to be able to adequately communicate next steps. So write that down. I think we should address the search of property and what technologies are best here. This is a great way to introduce our phone apps. That's a great way to search. We could probably discourage a few other searches that are third party that are not always so accurate and frustrating. On the making of offers, write this down too. Quote, to win the bid. So when NAR runs these polls, you guys, let me throw them up here. Look at this data, okay? And they often ask buyers, what do they want from agents? When do they buy a house? What characteristics? And they ask buyers what they want from an agent, and sometimes it is to win the bid. That's reflective of the markets that we're seeing across the country where inventory is so low. So I think that's a good sentence to hang on to when I'm in my buyer consult, is to remind them sometimes it's a process of winning the bid. I will share these graphs, I guess, if you'd like them. Maybe, Joe, we could put them in the training stuff on the intranet.
Absolutely. Send what you want.
Okay, and I'll just post them there. But look at this one on the timing. It was just the right time. We're ready to buy a home. Did not have much choice, had to move. That's not the dominant factor, but look, there's a lot of people that just had to move. I'm wondering in our post-COVID world, how many people will choose neighborhoods or have to move now because of a job per se. I'll just let you guys look through that. Look at this next one. Let me shrink that one away. Characteristics that they find very important. Price was dominant, so it had to be a price range. Condition of home, very dominant. The size, lot size, distance from job. I think I brought this up on a sales meeting. I wonder where that's going to fall. You know, I wonder if that just drops like off the list, given so many people are now, you know, working from home. And we might see things like having an office in the house becoming a dominant feature that's needed. That's going to be interesting to watch. The reason I show you that, on neighborhood too, look, convenient to job. Look at the percentage, especially in the younger group. You know, of course, the over 64 are probably not working, so that's not, you know, that's not as dominant. Not all of them are, but many of them are not. But look at convenient to job. That may fall. And matter of fact, I think I'll predict that is going to fall. Okay. All right. I'll show those in the training stuff. So a lot of these things I'm trying to get out there to have stick are coming from these data points so that we don't forget them. Okay. So sometimes we have to win the bid. Let's pivot because I'm going to run out of time and we're going to have all this material we haven't covered. I sent you this in your handout. Does that look familiar?
Yep.
Yeah, just kind of a reminder about how to get your offer, you know, to win the bid. Look, a lot of these guys, I know you already know, but sometimes we get in a hurry and we forget a few. I'm not going to talk a lot about price. I think that's obvious. It's a big deal to the buyer though. So you know, take some time in talking that over. I'm assuming most of our group is going to understand how to do that. Contract deadlines are a big deal. We know normally if they're shorter deadlines, that's in the seller likes that. How many of you reach out to the listing agent and ask when the seller would prefer to close and how much time they need to move out? If you're not doing that, that's a good way to make sure your offer is at the front of on top of the stack, right?
It's not always price, it's terms. And if the terms match the seller's needs, it's going to be a lot more valuable to them.
Yeah, maybe I had to put price and terms in here. You know, there might be something else that kind of link these two together, Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, we would look at the deadlines as the terms, but sometimes there's more in that. What about earnest money? Is that a big deal? Yeah, it's a huge deal for sellers because it's the only way they're compensated if things don't go right. They're not going to, most people are just not going to sue. And it, you know, that makes the process pretty ugly. I do have an opinion here that there ought to be something in 8.3 BI. If I'm a listing agent and I see that as 0, then I just know the financing and appraisal deadline, it could be used as the out for someone to change their mind on an item they should have done in due diligence. Okay. So I think that makes a weak offer. You want a stronger offer, look at earnest money in 8.3 BI. How about include some documentation? Maybe not, it's often referred a letter from the lender, but make sure that approval letter has got some substance to it. I mean, some of these things are ridiculous. You know, they're like subject to approval that the person exists. I mean, look, I'm making a joke about it, but you know, they can be pretty weak when you really look at it. So make sure you spend a little bit of time on that. Reduce or eliminate contingencies. Last night we were showing a property to a family member. They have the ability to purchase the new home without selling theirs. We talked about that, and it's competitive. There's already 2 other offers floating out there on the house they want. So we were able to talk through that. No blanks, no mistakes. Obviously, if you have blanks or mistakes, then that forces a counter offer, doesn't it? Because the listing agent has to fix it. So, you know, make sure you don't get in too big of a hurry when you're going through all that. The last 2 here. Oh, go ahead, Kev.
Particularly in a really competitive market, rather than counter, they may just take another offer, or they counter, and while the counter's out, another superior offer comes in. So you could end up losing it for your client by having a mistake or a blank there that they have to correct.
Right. Right. Okay. Paige, don't wreck. Every time I see Paige on a Zoom, he's going somewhere. Okay. Thanks.
A lot of agents are being creative and making their offers more attractive. One I heard the other day that I thought was novel is actually offering to pay for the seller's closing costs in addition to their own costs, just as a way to actually make their offer superior. I know that we're talking about, you know, the general working with buyers, but in this competitive market, what are some of the ideas that people are using to make their offers more attractive to the seller?
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Carol, can you unmute Carol Agel, Joe?
You betcha.
Mike Krause said escalation clause. Yeah, that works well unless everybody has an escalation clause, and then it kind of becomes you know, diminishing returns.
So Carol, I'm flashing on. There you go.
Yeah, I just chime in with, yeah, I wanted to chime in with something that Kevin's last remark opens up.
Yes.
I think it's really important that our buyers understand that all markets are local. And if they're coming from Northern California, where the market's already dropped 10% and is expected to drop another 10%, they're coming with that expectation. Mm-hmm. But if they're coming from Seattle, one of my friends just put her house on the market. It's a small one for $795. She deliberately put it low. What they do there is they move out of the house for a week with her kids. Everybody's moved out, and everybody can come see the house during that week. And at the end of the week, they take the best offer. It got bid up to $895. So here you have 2 totally different markets, both on the West Coast. And it's very, very important that we prepare our buyers for that.
Right. Good comment, Carol.
Yeah, very good. I think, you know, see, Carol is an expert. If you guys don't know her, she's a veteran expert in the industry. So her depth and vertical go very deep, and her ability to communicate her value proposition, I would imagine, would be pretty easy because of her experience. And I think that, you know, I wouldn't minimize this stuff, guys. Real estate is very complicated. I mean, I think just the brokers on this call, you know, how often do we go through a week and didn't learn something that we didn't know? I mean, it's really complicated, and it is a local issue. It's different here than it is there. It's why it's so important to have an expert who understands the market in the area. And I would speak that language to my buyers. You know, I'm an expert in this area. I understand the market conditions here.
That's a major part of your value proposition is the fact that I know the local market. It's different than where you came from.
Yeah.
Much.
Right. Right. Very good. Okay. I just wanted to make a comment about letter from buyer and letter from agent. A personal experience just a couple of months ago, my sister-in-law, my sister-in-law is writing an offer. That means without my brother. Yeah, it was a strange transaction. They recently separated and divorced, and she asked me for help on purchasing a new house, which I was glad to do. And we did decide to have her write a letter. There were 2 other offers. It made a huge difference in her case, but be very careful. See this, you know, bold, be careful. And what I mean here is that you don't put in letters things that would call into question whether we're using race, color, religion, sex, or handicap or familial status in order to get favoritism. I think you have to be very careful. Okay, and look, if I could write another sentence, in no case ever does the agent write this letter, ever, okay? Don't write it. You know, don't fall for it. Well, Kev, why don't you put together what you think will be good, and then I'll just sign. No, don't go there. You can see how that can backfire. The letter from the agent, I think sometimes look, how many of you guys have got a letter or an email from the buyer's agent that says something like, I look forward to working with you. If this all works out between our clients, it would be an honor for me to help, to help in the transaction and to, be a part of it and work with you side by side. I've heard a lot of good things about you, and just use your people skills. Julie, you have done that. Great. Yeah. Pick up the phone, call the agent. It just makes it more comfortable, I think. Sometimes these offers are so closely the same that some of these things can make a big difference. Okay. I'll tell you what, guys, let's teach each other. Use the chat. Tell me, is there something else that you do and how to get to win the bid that would help the rest of our teammates here that's not on the list? Keep it simple if you can, but write it in there. Let's see what we come up with. Man, you're writing paragraphs. Okay, very good. Have always expressed that to the agent. Very good, Swin. And Swin, if you guys don't know Swin, look, easy to make a friend, right? He's a great guy, and that doesn't surprise me if you'd say that. Be authentic. Okay, flexible on possession. Very good. You know what? I had someone the other day proposing a 7-day possession. So giving the seller an entire week to move out. That could possibly win the bid, right? Talk to them. Very good, Cheryl. Professional, be with the same with the lender. I think on the issue of the lender, a lot of times, guys, if the other side doesn't know the lender, I think it's very appropriate for you to vet your own experience that you've had with that lender. Lately, I've been really impressed with Intercap and Fairway, our mortgage partners. And boy, when they've come through, I've made sure that the other side always knew that, look, this is a great, this is a great lender you can rely on. Our mortgage partners are just fantastic, you guys. I mean, Scott's been great. They've just been fantastic. Okay, I think these are some good recommendations. Keep them coming if you want to. I'm going to pivot on to the next point. Okay?
Well,
yes.
Those interesting when they're saying they really like to present the offer in person to the seller. With the market that we're in, how often is that happening? I don't see that very often anymore. A lot of listing agents don't allow the presentation directly to the seller, but I think it's really a good idea if you could get them to do it, if they trust you as an agent.
Yeah, so how would we do that, guys? If we can't be physically there, what might you do to get the same effect? I mean, I've got an idea, but throw it up on the chat. What would you do to have the same kind of personal, yeah, why not? Hey, let's grab a Zoom call, right? They're doing it anyway, right? We've been talking about this. They're using these mediums at work now more than ever. So it's becoming kind of second nature. They're becoming very comfortable with it. So there might be a time to do that. Okay, very good. Very good stuff. Okay. See, it's already been an amazing class and we're almost over. See, time just flies, Kev, just flies. Tom Roney, he was down here, guys, on the 3rd floor. They had a meeting we couldn't be to. I need to be on this in their meeting. And I go, I live for having these CE classes, right? He goes, well, I said, there's not much else I'd rather do. And he's, well, what about go boating? And I can honestly tell you that this is just as fun. It's just as fun. Anyway, I love helping you guys.
Mike Varos asked the question there about if you asked to present, or do they have to let you present? And no, they don't.
No,
Is that right, Craig, in our code of ethics that you can request? The seller doesn't want it, that's the seller's choice.
Yeah,
we had this in professional standards, and ultimately it is the listing agent's decision.
Yeah.
And we've got to trust that the listing agent is counseling with the seller on how they would prefer that. I think that's the weight of the rule. It isn't that the listing agent is controlling and making the decision. It is that they're counseling with the seller, and the seller and the agent together have decided the best way to deal with offers is confidentially without the agent there. And they want that kind of private time to just talk openly about, the terms. So I think that's the spirit behind the rule. But yes, that is well said, Craig and Kevin, both. Very good. Okay, there's a few more things that, look, I wanted to show you. I hope that you got some value out of, whoops, not my email. Oh, not my screen share. Sorry, hold please, be right with you. Your call is very important to us. Here it is. Okay, sorry about that. If we were back in the Stringham days, we would just be editing that out. Okay, not docs and visuals though. How about this one? Okay. Our favorite form. The form we just love so much. Everyone's looking going, what form do I like so much? We love it so much because we just can't wait to talk about it. Right? We're just so excited to talk about the prior agreement. Well, you know what? We should be, because how else? I mean, look, this begs the question. How else does a buyer really hire you to get your expertise? This is the only way. So I was thinking this morning, have you ever presented this backwards? Because right from the start, we talked this one, don't we? Buyer, broker, the fee. And that can be maybe a little challenging depending on, where we are with the relationship. But this is actually not a bad way to do a presentation, on some of the complexities that we need to think about. Look at all of these terms that could bring up questions from the buyer, right? I mean, and the guidance you could give. I think they make better presentations than you might think. Thanks, Julie, for laughing at the jokes. Okay, but there's another one that I think is our second favorite form. Anyone want to guess? Matter of fact, Kevin and Craig, don't write anything. But what do you think our second favorite form is dealing with buyers that we just love to talk about? Dawn, man, it's like Stockton for 3. Yeah, due diligence, disclosure, the checklist, and maybe I gave you a little hint because it's right here. Remember, if you're doing this over Zoom, you just add the form and bring it in, and then since you're not filling it out, you just have the form to talk about it. But look at all of the things that can come up. You could either run at this and use this to talk through things, or if they ask a question, pull up the form and address it here. Okay, here's the question I'm hoping you don't have too much knowledge on. Greenbelt. The property is 6.5 acres. We've been told by the listing agent that it is currently in Greenbelt. So what in the world does that mean? Linda, very good. Weighing in from Moab. We could have some back taxes. There's deferred taxes. Okay, keep it coming, guys. Let's see what your... Yeah, thanks for, by the way, your neurons really appreciate you being engaged. Trust me. You get a lot more out of it, even if it's repetitive. So very good, Brad. So this came in, okay, maybe I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for just a second and just like, okay. Where is the word Greenbelt found? Let's see how smart we are. Where is it found? It's actually in 2 different places. Can you tell me both places? Oh, the Farm Assessment Act. Good, Doug. Where is it found in our forms? Good guesses. There's one. So it is in the due diligence disclosure. I'll pull that back up. Is it found in the seller's property condition disclosure? What do you think, guys? Is it?
Yes.
Use your reactions and give me a thumbs up if you think it is. Let's see how many of us is going to get this right. Yeah. Okay. So it is found there. Okay. I'm going to use Greenbelt as let's not make the whoops. Okay. What kind of things should we not say about Greenbelt to a buyer or a buyer client? Anyone want to give me the wrong answer? Oh, I just said this yesterday. This is no problem. Finally, an answer I have here. Kev, what should we not say? Craig, what should we not say about Greenbelt?
Tax-free.
Yeah, it's tax-free. Heck yeah. I mean, just think of the money you're going to save. Yes. I like it. Don't worry about it. Don's like, yeah, it's Greenbelt, so don't worry about it. It won't affect you. Yeah. We should take this comedy thing on the road. I think this is better than Saturday Night Live Zooms.
Will, when's the last time you've actually seen Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I don't want it. Yeah, it's not.
You're
really
in bed before that.
Yeah, but but you know, we say, don't worry about it. It saves you money. Couple of things on this. Here's the truth about it, guys. Every county can be a little different on what the county taxes are in Greenbelt. So don't think that they just simply wash over. The concept of Greenbelt is to give farmers and agricultural lands a break on property taxes in order to keep, frankly, produce lower for the consumer. So to not overtax farmers. If it's taken out of the Greenbelt status, then it goes back and reverts back 5 years of taxes. So this is going to cause a problem if we don't negotiate who's going to pay for this, right? Because who gets the tax bill if the new buyer takes it out of Greenbelt status? Who gets that tax bill? Say again? It's not the buyer, guys. It's not the buyer. It's back taxes. Who gets the tax bill? It's the seller. And here's the problem. If the seller says, well, that's ancient history, it's sold, I'm over it, I'm done, I don't live there, I'm ignoring it, then who gets the tax lien? This is fun, isn't it? I think we should just get an amateur agent to help us and get that $5,000. Don't you think, guys? Don't you think that would just be a lot easier? I mean, I don't know about you, but when I need eye surgery, I look for the doctor who's the cheapest. Right? What? No way. So the buyer gets a tax lien attached to the property, and the seller is the one who owes the taxes. So this is a lot, this could be a problem. And I know a lot of you on the call right now, maybe not dealing with a lot of greenbelt issues, but the reason I pulled that one out is because it's one of countless issues that can come up. It is, it is on the buyer due diligence checklist. Anybody want to tell me where it is? Anybody know the section? I'd be really impressed if you knew the section.
Zoning.
Anybody? Anybody? Last chance, going once. Maybe we should give, hey Kev, why don't you give them $50 if they guess it?
Yeah, I'm not sure you've got that much in your wallet for me to give.
Oh, Craig, you could, let's play along here. Come on. Where is it, guys? The word greenbelt, where is it?
Zoning.
Assessments and transfer fees, 10.
I don't see it there. Anybody else want to keep guessing? Here, let me go through the chats again and see who's got it. Who's confident they have it? Which one is it? Linda, tax assessment. What section of the buyer's due diligence checklist says greenbelt? Anybody know? What section?
Was it future use right there? You just scroll down.
How about right here? 21, greenbelt. Buyer is advised that depending upon the present use, the property may be taxed as greenbelt. The purchase of the property may change the greenbelt status and make the property tax assessed by the county. Such change in greenbelt status may result in a liability for rollback taxes. So it is found there. So, we should have a new love affair with this document because it's really realtor friendly. It has a really like Marvel way, superhero way of protecting us in transactions, right? Wouldn't it be nice to come back and say, oh, I did have that signed? And it does say in 21, it does warn everyone of greenbelt. And what about the seller's property condition disclosure that again warns the buyer about greenbelt? Wouldn't that be helpful? Okay, guys, give me 3 takeaways from today that you hope will help change your thoughts, ideas, actionable items that you think might make your career in working with buyers better. While you're doing that, Craig sent me an email, and thank you so much, Craig, from Inman. Let me see if I can pull it up. And you know what? Look at all of these points on why a buyer should sign a buyer-broker agreement. We should explain its purpose. It's the only way to hire you. Explain what agency and representation is. Here are all your duties of obedience and loyalty, disclosure and accounting, reasonable care. Convey to a buyer your value proposition based on your service. We've talked a lot about that. Tell the buyer that they will get more without paying more. I don't like how that's phrased, but we could work on that. We should make part of our process of converting a buyer lead, the process of having that buyer consultation meeting. if you're not if that's not part of your habit of your process, I would highly recommend that you that you look at that again. Let me just pull out a couple of points before we adjourn on that I think are, look, I kind of made a bullet point of what all these are kind of a list. Here are a few topics that can be covered in a buyer consultation meeting. Property criteria. Spend a lot of time having fun looking at property and educating them on the market. I love how Bill Coleman says, here's the airport, and we drive up the canyon and we start showing property, and I love that. Buyers love that. Technology and searching, earnest money, the timing and deadlines, financial process, inspections, appraisals. My goodness, you guys, there's a lot to talk about. And it would be, I think, just not as professional if you just keep showing houses, hoping to buyer broker them and write an offer. Do you guys agree with that? You agree? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then it's been a victory. I think we could just hold. Yeah. Yay! We win. Thanks for laughing, Kev.
Well, you belong on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for being with me today, you guys. It's been a great hour. Didn't that go by fast? That just flew by. That's the fastest hour. You know, it's like wake surfing at PAL. It just goes by so quick. All right, I love you guys. Thanks for joining me this morning. Have a wonderful day. We'll make sure you get your CE credit. I'll go back and look at the comments to make sure that if there's something I missed, we'll bring it up in a later coaching or training. I sure appreciate your support, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Call Kev or Craig or I. We are dying to help you, and you're never bugging us, right? Isn't that right? Craig? Yep.